This video is going to be a step-by-step tutorial on how I turned an old dresser mirror into a framed chalkboard. In an effort to salvage some parts from an old dresser that I ended up refinishing, I wanted to do something with the mirror frame because it was really pretty and fit really nice with the dresser itself, and so I decided to upcycle it to a chalkboard. To start the project, I laid the mirror down so that I could take the backing off of it and remove the mirror. This particular mirror was badly water damaged, so it was pretty easy to do. Make sure that when you're doing this that you're not pressing down on the mirror itself, as you might break it. Once the backer board is removed, you can safely remove the mirror from the frame. This one is ridiculously thick. Once the mirror is off of the frame, you can unscrew the little holders holding the frame in. If your mirror is broken or you accidentally threw it in the trash can, you can actually just make a template that fits inside of the frame. I did this by taping 2 pieces of paper together. You can use whatever you have. And then I used my X-Acto knife to cut out the form that I'm going to use for the board. Next, you're going to take your backboard template, and then you're going to lay it on some thin plywood. I ended up picking up some 4 foot by 4 foot plywood underlayment board at Home Depot. I picked up the 4 foot by 4 foot version because the other one wasn't quite big enough, and this thing barely fit in my car. It was pretty great. You're going to trace the shape onto the underlayment board. Purple scented crayons work really well in case you don't have a pencil. Next, you're going to need to cut the board. That can be done with a bandsaw, which if you have one, I am envious, or a regular old jigsaw to cut out the shape. Make sure that you have a blade on that's used for cutting wood. The underlayment board that I'm cutting is actually sitting on 2 sawhorses, and it's clamped on both sides of the board, which I did prior to cutting. This is going to stop it from moving all over the place, and it'll stop it from falling to the ground when you cut things in half. I'll link these sawhorses in the description. They're pretty nice and they can support an entire hutch, which is really useful. Now, as you're cutting and using the jigsaw, you're going to want to cut slowly and shoot for cutting larger as opposed to smaller. It's a lot harder to add things to the board as you're cutting it as opposed to sanding it off later, which is what I ended up doing. After I sanded the surface smooth, I used Rust-Oleum aerosol primer and I applied 1 coat to the wood. That's what the chalkboard paint recommended, and that's probably going to help the adhesion of the chalkboard paint. I then used a foam brush to apply the chalkboard paint to the surface. That way I got a nice smooth surface. I did a light sand and I actually applied 2 coats. I'll link this chalkboard paint in the description because it worked really well, but it only says you need 1 coat, and I'm not okay with that, so I did 2. Before I painted the mirror frame, I repeated a similar process. I did end up filling the holes on the left and right side of the frame. Then I lightly sanded the surface and smoothed everything out. Then I used the same Rust-Oleum aerosol primer to prime the frame. And I went in with Homestead blue from Fusion Mineral Paint and painted the entire frame twice. After everything was fully dry, I attempted to attach the backer board using nails, unsuccessfully, and instead I had some 527 glue, which is a multi-use glue that dries clear and really strong, and I applied a liberal amount in the corners of the frame where the chalkboard would be placed. I focused more on those inner areas as opposed to where you would see the chalkboard, because when you push that board down, it's going to seep out over the edges. And I put weights on top of it and I let it dry overnight. It probably didn't need that long to dry, but better safe than sorry. Here's the final product staged with the dresser that I flipped. I did end up adding picture wire to the back so that it can be hung up on the wall. It's a really neat project, and it could be an item that you can either sell with something that you flip, or you could put your old mirrors to good use by just simply upcycling their frame. Drop me a comment below if you have any other ideas on how you could repurpose these old mirror frames. Thanks for watching.